The release of Mary Trump's book this week gave us, for the very first time, an up-close account of the Trump family dynamics from the inside. But in an interview with the Washington Post, Trump's niece says, "We've already witnessed a larger scale version of it." Quote, "Much like in her extended family," Mary Trump said, "a similar dynamic is now playing out on the national stage, with Trump simultaneously possessing an unerring instinct for finding people who are weaker than he is, while also being eminently usable by people who are stronger and savvier than he is, and eager to exploit him." Eddie and Hellman are back. So, Eddie, it is so, I don't know if rewarding or confirming is the right word, but to hear her with her experience and her life experience sort of classify in a clinical way the relationship with all the subservient people that work for him. We ask week after week after week, why do they stay? They're in the category of the bullied. And then to see Trump just run by Vladimir Putin and people who are able to play to his shame about being stupid or whatever it is that lets Vladimir Putin have his way with him.
You know, Nicole, this is the latest confirmation of what we all know. Donald Trump is who he is, you know. And I've been struggling with the Mary Trump book. And I'll say this, and this is the reason why I've been struggling with it, Nicole. It confirms that we're in As the World Turns, or, you know, All My Children. The estranged niece, you know, gives us insight into the family that has done X, Y, and Z. It really reveals how the seriousness of the Oval Office, how the seriousness of our politics have been diminished, that we find ourselves in a melodramatic soap opera with predictable characters, that we know the end, what the end is going to be in some ways. And so I appreciate the insider insight we're getting. But for me, it confirms a kind of deep sadness about the state of the country. Look where we are. We are all, in some ways, spectators to a very bad soap opera about a very bad guy.
You know, Hellman, I take Eddie's point, and I'll take it one step further. What are we waiting for? I mean, I really think the look back will not reflect well on a media that was in a lot of ways too timid in its coverage of Trump. I mean, really, we covered the Rose Garden and came on afterward and said, well, it was meandering, but, you know, maybe that's the new approach. I mean, you know, it is so obvious what Mary Trump details, which is a badly psychologically damaged person who's still screwed up from whatever his childhood was and now carrying out whatever that baggage is on the entire country.
Sure. Nicole, I'm not a giant fan of media criticism, so I'm not going to get, I just thought, you know, so our colleagues do what they're going to do. I'll tell you, on this show, at least in my experience, you and I, have we been too timid in talking about Donald Trump's pathologies? I don't think we have been. And I think,
No, and let me say, I'm only criticizing myself. I'm not criticizing anybody else in the media. I wrestle with, I feel like we are all very blunt, but go.
Yeah, I think that, you know, all of us are trapped a little bit. He's the president of the United States, right? And so we still, you know, we can't break out of our sense that we have some sense of respect for the office or some sense of deference to the office. But I got to say, at least in my memory of our 3.5 years here talking about Donald Trump, I'm not going to look back on much of what, I don't think we've held back very much. Sometimes I think we've been pretty off the chain. And I think that, you know, we didn't held back the other day after the thing our thing in the Rose Garden. I think to Eddie's point, though, you can analyze all this as a melodrama, as a soap opera, right? But also, you know, you can also analyze it as Shakespeare. And people in his day said that Shakespeare wrote soap operas. And the reality is that a lot of what Mary Trump reveals in this book, like every insider account from the Trump family, is the thing you just said, which is a deeply dysfunctional family and a deeply damaged psyche.
Yeah.
And we see the pathological narcissism. We see it. So it's nice that it tracks in the sense that you get some kind of a picture. People who've studied his father it can trace the genetics of it and the environment that he was raised in. You read this account and it tracks with what we see. And I would just like draw it into the realm of politics, right? Because the one thing I think you and I would agree about is that we've lived through essentially 3 incumbent presidents that we've known in our adult lifetimes: Barack Obama, your boss, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, all 3 of whom got reelected. And they all were, none of those men were perfect men. But what part of the reason they got reelected and part of the reason why they built a team around them that got them there was because they had some kind of confidence and some kind of ability to build a structure around them in which there was trust, in which people could speak honestly to them, in which they could hear the hard truths told to them that would help them to course correct when they needed to course correct. They had discretion. They built teams that were based on values and that were based on at least the ability to speak truth within the inner circle. And I think what we're seeing right now in the purely political realm, it's the failings of the Trump campaign are not the campaign's faults. They are always the fault of the candidate first and foremost. But when you see that dysfunction that's now playing out in a very vivid way on the Trump reelection team, you could hear the echoings of what Mary Trump has written. And it's not just playing out in the White House or in the president's head, but you're seeing it in the thing that is supposed to help him keep his job. And that thing is now breaking down in a way that mimics all of the kind of family dynamics that she lays out in the book. And I find that, I don't know, maybe I'm too cheap and too tawdry, but I find it interesting to see how it's playing out.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.